What can you blow up or break? What needs to be reimagined? What needs to be re-envisioned and might need to be broken in order to make that happen? That is going to be the focus this week as Mars moves into Sagittarius and opposes Uranus in Gemini. Thank you so much for being here. It's your boy Zamboni. If you want an astrology reading, if you want to learn astrology, you can go to zambonifunk.com. Appreciate y'all for being here. This week looks like it is, it's a time where we definitely want to break some things. Mars likes breaking things all the time, right? That's what Mars does. Mars wants to be aggressive with it. Mars wants to get stuff moving, and if that means stuff breaks, then that's what that means. Mars this week is going to move out of Scorpio, which is Mars's home placement. Mars loves being in Scorpio. Mars is going to move out of Scorpio and into Sagittarius. Now, Sagittarius is a fire sign, and so you would think that Mars, the fiery planet, would like being in a fire sign. The thing about that is what happens with Mars a lot of times is Mars gets too fiery. Mars's job, in fact, is to go overboard with things, to do too much. And so you put him in Sagittarius, the land of the roaring fire, and it turns into quite a lot. Now, the other thing that's happening here is that Mars moving into Sagittarius immediately puts Mars into opposition with Uranus and Gemini. Now, Uranus's job is surprises, unexpected things, breakups, breakdowns, breakthroughs, break free, that kind of stuff, right? So there's usually a rupture involved with that Uranus. Now, oftentimes Uranus is very good at breaking chains, right? So this sense of like, I'm not going to be repressed any longer. I'm going to let my freak flag fly. I'm going to say the thing. I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to be as wild as I always wanted my heart to be, that kind of thing, right? Uranus is very good for that kind of thing. Uranus in Gemini is going to be, so Gemini is one of Mercury's signs, and so is going to be associated with communications, with words, with storytelling, narrative, frame, that kind of thing. Technology, ones and zeros, math, all that sort of stuff is associated with Mercury, and therefore Uranus in Gemini is going to be concerned with these kinds of things, right? And so there's an idea of something that needs to be broken in order to move forward. But, so here's the thing. When you break the thing, you don't move forward immediately. You're going to have to go back and be like, actually, that was kind of useful for a second. There was some stuff that was doing that I forgot that it was doing and that I needed to, like, you're going to need a contingency plan probably on some of that stuff. Because what we can notice here is that Mercury, who is ruling that Uranus in Gemini, is present in Sagittarius alongside Mars. And so Mercury got away from that Mars for a second, but Mercury is moving real slow at this point. In fact, we will see the station next weekend. So Mercury is slowing down, and Mars is just catching up. And so the two of them together, Mars and Mercury, often look like Mars angry, words, Mercury, right? Or aggressive language, or fighting words, or something like that. You know what I mean? It looks like argumentation. It looks like a contest of wits and, the like ideas go to battle whenever Mars and Mercury are together. And so the two of them in opposition to Uranus and Gemini definitely looks like stuff wants to break. And there's a like, it's kind of like, in the marketplace of ideas, like there ain't room enough for the two of us in this town. You know what I mean? Like it's a kind of like duel, like a Western style duel, but in the idea space in some kind of way. And so it looks like ideas are going to battle here. And so I would expect a lot of really loud argumentation. I would expect, it gets really loud, and kind of not that intelligible is also the other thing that's going on here with this Mercury slowing down this way. Mercury is going to station retrograde pretty soon, is going to go back and review, reevaluate, reinvent. All of the words tend to show up during a retrograde, right? So as Mercury moves back, that'll begin next week. Then we're going to see all this stuff come up another time, and we're going to see another opposition to Uranus and another conjunction, or Mercury is going to even move back into Scorpio, and we're going to see a bunch of the stuff that the late Scorpio things are gonna come up another time, right? And so this is part of what I mean by like something needs to break. It's not the way that things are right now, the way of conceiving what the world is made of, or what is appropriate in this circumstance or situation, whatever your local circumstance is, your way of approaching that is not up to par. And so something needs to break here. But after the break happens, then it's like, oh, I got to go back and I got to reimagine and reinvent a lot of stuff here. Now, one of the things that is likely to sort of push things over the edge here into that breaking point is that we also have the full moon in Taurus this week. Now, I typically like a full moon in Taurus that's opposite to the sun in Scorpio. This is very good for like debauchery. This is very good for sensual pleasures and this kind of thing, especially since we can notice that Venus at the time of the full moon, who is ruling the full moon in Taurus, right? Venus rules Taurus. So Venus is in Libra at that point. And so Libra is a home sign for Venus. Venus looks really good and comfortable there. Early in the week, in fact, Venus is going to make a square to Jupiter in Cancer. That looks really good for Venus. That looks really good for pleasure dynamics. It looks really good for equanimity if we're thinking about Libra and balance and justice and this kind of thing. I always think about Venus and Libra as like the hostess with the mostest, that kind of thing, right? There's a kind of elegance and grace about that placement. So this full moon does look really good for pleasure dynamics. It looks really good for Venus style, cooperation, kind of. The thing about a full moon is that it's the full moon, so it's the brightest moon that there is. It brings all the emotional stuff to the surface, and so things get wild and out of hand pretty easy with a full moon. You just ask any hospital worker or something like that, the full moon tends to be kind of crazy. And so there can be a sort of like a bubbling over sort of moment with that. And then, that's at the same moment that Mars is moving into, and Mars is ruling the sun. Sun's in Scorpio, so Mars is going to be moving into Sagittarius and opposing that Uranus and Gemini. So there's that opposition and the opposition between the sun and moon. The way that I teach oppositions in Astrology from the Ground Up, of course, where you can learn the fundamentals of astrology in a very relatable and easy to understand way. The way that I teach that there is oppositions have a kind of can't live with them, can't live without them sort of dynamic there, right? And so the thing about all of this pleasure dynamic, which is totally possible with this Venus and Libra, is that it might be a little too much. Like things want to go overboard here, and that might lead to some kind of break, or some kind of new idea needs to come through, but it can't come through as long as the old idea is still in place. And so there's going to have to be some kind of change in the narrative frame in how we go about approaching the things that matter here. So it does look like things get a little bit messy as Mars is going through this dynamic, and it looks like things want to get a little bit angry with the words. And Mercury and Sagittarius, Mercury and Mars both there in Sagittarius, but Mercury especially is in a detriment position. This is to say that Mars is as far away from home from possible. Exile is another way to think about this. And so Mercury and Sagittarius, again, Sagittarius does the most by its nature. Sagittarius is going off. Now, Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is in Cancer, looking great, looking very good at doing the Jupiter things. But Cancer can't see Sagittarius. They don't make an aspect. And so Jupiter's kind of going all vibes over here. And so having to like manage the situation but can't see it. And so since they can't be seen, Mars and Mercury are liable to go a little bit wild with things. So it looks like things want to get a little bit messy with all that. It looks like emotions are going to be running really high this week. For a little while, I've been sort of thinking with, do I need to fight this fight right now? Like, how important is the fight that I'm going to have? This looks like a week where avoiding fights or breaking things or conflict or something like that probably isn't really working that well. So it's going to be more about picking it. A lot of times when I think about Mars's job is to go overboard, right? And so the thing to do with Mars is to give that overboard a place to go. If something needs to break. So what is the right thing to break in this moment? Not, can I not break things? Because that's a little bit like internalizing your anger and then just giving yourself heart palpitations or something like that. Like, oh, now I have cardiovascular trouble because I was so angry and didn't express it, right? Instead of that, is there an appropriate way for that expression of Mars things? Can we break something in a way that is helpful and appropriate for the dynamic, especially a relationship dynamic with an opposition that we actually do live in?